Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Walking Dead Q&A type of video. This one constitutes number 25, leading up to the premiere of The Walking Dead Season 6. And this one we're going to start with talking about the announcement from Telltale Games of a miniseries game for Michonne. All right, great. So first we'll talk about that, and then we'll go ahead and get into some of your guys' questions afterwards. So a few people asked me to give my thoughts on this one. You guys kind of know where I stand on the Telltale game miniseries. I did buy the first one, or at least bought the first. I think it's you buy that in episodes or whatever, right? Bought the first part, tried it, couldn't play through it just due to the amount of time it takes. Unfortunately, I just don't have the time to do it. Would love to though. So the announcement has come from Telltale because it was E3 last weekend. June 15th was the announcement, and I'll put the link in the description to the article for you guys so you can check out the Michonne details, I guess. There's a few details about it. We'll go over it real quick here. Pretty cool. You can see her with her katana blade, and she's got a couple pet walkers, and you can see the video game version of her. So here's what I want to say about this one. I am a fan of this idea. I think this is a really, really good idea, at least to start. Now, this one's going to be a mini-series, and what it says in the details is going to be released for PC, Mac, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PS3, Xbox 360, and compatible iOS and Android-based devices. So for the first episode of it, or it says here that you're going to need at least the first episode of The Walking Dead Season 2 in order to play The Walking Dead Michonne, but there's going to be more info closer to the premiere date. But it says basically what they're doing is this part of what we're seeing in the video game is going to actually be canon for the Walking Dead series, the comic book series, and it's going to cover the time skip portion of Michonne's life during that time. So between issues 126 and 139, which is after All Out War, the battle with Negan ends, and we see the couple-year time skip, this game takes place between that time span. So we kind of get an understanding through this game, and this is what I like. This is why I like the idea of this, is because it adds to the original story. It adds to the original Walking Dead comic book series, where you get to see exactly what happened with her, because in terms of reading the comic book series, that's a mystery right now. We don't know what happened to a lot of the characters and what happened to, a lot of just all the different things that happened during that time range. They've kind of touched on it. She's had a discussion with Rick about what's happened, and with Ezekiel, and what's going on with her, what her deal is. And this game is actually going to allow us to play through it to see exactly what happened to her. So I think that's a good idea. I really like that idea. Versus, I understand the Walking Dead video game series has done extremely well, been voted Game of the Year and stuff like that, which is awesome. And that they did a totally unique story with pretty much all new characters. You get to meet some of the characters like Herschel, Glenn, things like that. But it's basically focused on new characters. I like the idea of this kind of a game where it's focused on a real character from the show. I shouldn't say real, because the characters in the games are real too, but they're not, I wouldn't say they're officially canon to the comic book or the TV series. They're its own thing. This one, though, is actually going to be officially canon to that, and is going to actually, be that part of the series that we didn't get to see. So for that, I'm really happy that they're going to do that. I hope in the future we'll get to see some more, because playing as Michonne's not bad, but I would really be interested if they ever decided to do a Governor one, where we got to see, we got to play through the events of what happened with the Governor leading up to Hal Woodbury when we meet him in the comic book or TV series versions. I still think that would make for a great story, similar to Season 4 in the parts where he kind of rose up in that new group, getting to see him kind of rise up to build Woodbury. I think it would just be really cool to see. There's the novels, too, you can check out. But I would really like to play through it or see a movie of it, or just anything like that. I think would be really cool for him. For some reason, that really appeals to me, that idea that I've heard a few people talk about, over the years in the channel. But getting to see one of Michonne during the time skip is not bad either, and really happy to hear that it is actually, officially part of The Walking Dead's canon, even though some people do regard the original games as part of the comic book canon, which is fine. I don't want to make an argument there that they're not. I mean, I understand what you mean, but it's nice to see an actual character from it during a time when we don't know what happened to her. So those are my thoughts on that. Will I check it out? Will I play the game? We'll see. I'll see when it gets released, how much time I have, that kind of thing. And also, too, you can watch some of the gameplays on YouTube also. Some people do upload it. So that might be something that I would actually watch. Some people have brought up, Trev, if you don't want to buy and play the game all the way through, you could watch it to get a sense of the story and do a review on the channel, online afterwards. So maybe I could look at that for the Michonne miniseries. I am interested to hear or to see what happened to her during that time. I think it's a good idea. Cool. So let me know what you guys think about the Walking Dead video game spin-off, the Telltale minigame series of Michonne, which is cool. Okay, let's get into a few of your other questions from you guys over the weekend. This weekend, apologize for not getting a video up yesterday for you guys in the Walking Dead video for a couple days. Just busy with the Game of Thrones finale and all that. Was all kinds of craziness going on with that, and it was a pretty incredible finale. So made a few videos for that, and just really needed a day or two off, that type of deal. Okay, so first one's from CT Motivation. He says, Q&A. Do you think there is a chance for Rick to die while trying to save Carl? Walking Dead comic book series. And the TV series too. And I think that's a great question, because I think that would be like the perfect way for Rick to die at the end of the series. And then if they decided, it was just going to continue onward after that point, if he died saving Carl, then Carl could become our point of view character, which we're already kind of seeing happen anyway, in the Walking Dead comic book series. So I think eventually we're going to see something like that. And I do think eventually Kirkman is going to want to kill Rick off at some point. I don't think he will just live on forever. Like, if The Walking Dead is still being released 20 years from now, do you think Rick will still be the main character when it's being released, every month like that in 20 years? I tend to think no. So I think eventually we will see that. And I think if he was to give his life to save Carl, that's a great suggestion. That would be perfect. And then he also asked favorite cover in the Walking Dead comic books. That's a pretty tough one, man, because there's so many great covers. But you guys know the cover. I actually don't know the number of it off the top of my head, but it's the Carl cover that I've used a good number of times. Actually pretty recent, where you see the eye missing. Is it 137? Something like that. I've used it a lot of times, but I just can't. I'm not great with the numbers off the top of my head. I'm better with the trades, where it's like a yellow backdrop, and you see Carl. He's got the slick back hair, and he's just got the eye missing like that. And he's just like this. I've used it a lot. You guys know the one. It's been in a number of thumbnails, and I just love it. I think that is just, man, amazing. Also, some of the issue 100 covers were incredible. Like the getting to see, I actually have it here. I have the Todd McFarlane variant, actually, which is cool, which has a zombie Rick, and he's got a gun. I think it's like pointed at himself or something like that. And then it says Laurie and Rick. That one's cool. And then there's one of issue 100 where you've got like all the dead survivors or people that were survivors with Rick there, and it's got all of them there. Plus, you can't go wrong with issue number 1, because that's like classic. By the way, I was trying to get an issue number 1, and it's like over $1,000. It's like closer to $2,000 for a first printing of The Walking Dead issue number 1, man. Even on eBay, and that's not inflated pricing or anything like that. That's literally what it sells for on eBay. If you have like a mint, graded original printing of The Walking Dead issue number 1, it's worth almost $2,000 now. I was like, wow, dude, I should have bought a bunch of those back in the day, because I was looking at them for like $100 like 5 years ago or 4 years ago, and I was like, man, I don't want to spend the $100. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't want to do it, but I was literally looking at them, and I didn't buy one, and now they're going for $2,000. So you see how, like, if you can predict things like that in the market of change like that, man, it's so easy to get rich if you know what to do. Like, if you could just go back in the past, and have that knowledge of what's going to happen, man, it'd be so easy to get rich, even just gambling on fights or something when you know who's going to win all the time. Oh man, it's crazy. So anyway, time only goes one way, but I just thought that was funny, because I literally was looking at them for like $100, and I was like, I don't think it's worth that much to buy one, and now they're worth $2,000. Crazy stuff. So anyway, I also wanted to address from CD Motivation. I talked about this in a recent video. I do the best I can to try and comment with you guys and try to include your questions in the Q&As. It's just that there's so many, and it takes so long. Back in the day when the channel was getting started, I could pretty much reply to everybody. I could include almost every question I got. Like, if I got a question, I could put it in every time. But that's, nowadays when The Walking Dead's on and stuff, or even when Game of Thrones is on and that, it's just we're not talking like 100 comments a day. We're talking like 1,000, 2,000, 10,000. You know what I mean? And that's just impossible. I'd be here all day trying to reply to everybody or answer everything. It's just too many guys. So I wanted to respond to him because he's been a viewer of the channel for a long time. And I think he felt like I was kind of brushing him off. And I don't ever want to do that to any of you guys. But I also want you to understand that there's just so many. The volume is too much to manage it with a reasonable amount of time. So that's what's up with that. The thing with time, in The Walking Dead too, they're always focusing on time. It's man, time is the one thing. Father Time eventually defeats us all. I think that's Charles Barkley. I think he said that. Father Time is undefeated, man. Father Time, sooner or later, he defeats us all. So, and it's true. Sooner or later, he defeats everything. Father Time, man. Anyway, okay. Next one's from Edward Davey, and he says, "Hey, Trev, what role do you see yourself in a zombie apocalypse?" And he's got a few. As a leader, medic, cook, scavenger. Why? Also, or he said, like, why would you? Also, I'm from England. What would you think the apocalypse will be like here as opposed to the U.S.? Less guns, cities closer together. Man, Shaun of the Dead, dude. That's an awesome movie for that. I was even thinking about getting a Shaun of the Dead figure for the background because that movie is hilarious. And also love, of course, 28 Days Later. Amazing, too. Hopefully they do the 28 months later, but we'll see if it ever happens. So I've answered questions like that before, but I wanted to include this definitely because of the second part in that. I would probably see myself as a leader, but I could be kind of a fighter too. Medic, probably not. Cook, no, I don't think so. Scavenger, yeah, stuff like that would be cool. I'm kind of stoic in the way that I wouldn't try to fight against what's happening in terms of change. I would just get used to it, and try to become good at it. If the world's full of zombies, you better get good at trying to kill zombies, right? And at killing them. And then as you go, hope you get better and better and better. You practice more and more and more, and you can become a slayer like Michonne or any of the other characters in The Walking Dead that just can go through and clean house. There's always an amount though that's too much, so you got to know when to run, right? But yeah, I think that would be good. A leader maybe, but I'm kind of young, right? So if you have like in the real world, if you look at The Walking Dead, a lot of the times you have in terms of leaders, you have characters like Rick, older, and stuff like that. So older people don't usually like to listen to younger people generally. There are some exceptions to that. That's not always the case, but I notice a lot of the time, a lot of your leaders tend to usually be kind of older and have more experience and that kind of thing. It makes sense, right? Cool. And the second part, man, I'd love to see something in England. They should definitely do a Walking Dead UK. I thought Fear the Walking Dead was like the perfect opportunity to do a UK version of The Walking Dead. I just think that would be great. Kirkman AMC, figure it out, get in touch with one of the UK networks or something, or start your own UK AMC network and just do it, man. I mean, I think that would be really cool to see London. I would want to see London in a zombie apocalypse in Walking Dead style. That would just be amazing, man. Not Shaun of the Dead style, even though that's fun too. Let's do a couple more. Next one's from Frankie G, and he says, "Hey Trev, I don't know if you've answered this question in Q&A or not yet. Something similar maybe, but here it goes. So in all versions of The Walking Dead, television series, comic books, video game, it has only taken place in the United States." This is similar to Edward's question. My question for you is, how do you think other parts of the world are doing? For one of your recent Q&As, you mentioned that there was probably less than 1% of the population left. Do you think there are small bands of survivors all over the world similar to Rick and his group? And if so, do you think there are actual safe zones, military guarded areas? Thanks. If you answer this, love your videos, man. Thanks, Frankie. This was something that was addressed like a long time ago, actually in the first season of The Walking Dead with Jenner. And I heard that Robert Kirkman afterwards regretted doing this, which is he gave us an insight through Jenner that the whole world was basically gone. And the last was, I think he said the French were the last to hold up. I think that's what he said. And I'm going back, this is like 5 years ago now, so I'm going on memory, right? But I believe that's what he said. So it's, in the Walking Dead universe, it's everywhere. It's all around the world. And yes, there would be small groups everywhere. I think Canada would be pretty good for a zombie apocalypse, to be honest, because all you have to do is go up north far enough and just live in the woods, get a cabin or something, and just live. hunt your own food or whatever you got to do. And there's so much space that it would take forever. You'd probably see a zombie once every couple of years, or like a herd would come through once every like 5 years or something. It'd just be a great place. But it wouldn't be exciting for a TV series. I'll put it that way. If you were to go like northern Canada or Russia or something, where it's just like freezing cold all the time. I think there would be everywhere pretty much zombies, and based on what Jenner said earlier. And I think there'd be small surviving groups pretty much everywhere. Yeah, I think so. And we'll do one last one from Matt Stone. And he says, hey, Trev, I got to say, I'm really disappointed with the direction the last few issues have taken. The dead are hardly even mentioned anymore. They are no threat, not even giant herds. And we've seen some huge herds recently. With previous villains, the dead were always a threat, but now it's just a story about people rebuilding civilization and various love stories. Some shit needs to go down or I'm going to stop reading. Your thoughts? I had to include that because that's a great comment from Matt, man. And keep sending me your guys' questions. That's all I got for right now, so I need to build another list for number 26. But definitely wanted to address this one. I feel like, okay, so The Walking Dead definitely has changed after the time skip from like a survival horror into a different type of almost a character drama now, right? I would say that. And I like both versions. I like both types. And it kind of always does that. It kind of goes back and forth a lot of the way through. But the zombies in the TV series have kind of always been a consistent threat, except for maybe like season 3 where they kind of got away from that. Then they went back to it, right? Especially recently with Tyrese and that in season 5, the zombies have been, it's a lot more obvious that they are a big threat. But you're right. In the comic book series, it's kind of like they've overcome the zombie apocalypse now at some point. So I think maybe we're due for a reminder in the next few years of something big happening with a huge herd or something. But I think a big part of what goes on with it is that they want to keep it original and they don't want it to ever feel repetitive. So they want to keep changing the story. I almost feel like there's a good portion of The Walking Dead that almost feels a little bit like Game of Thrones, to be honest. I mean, you have some sword fighting, you have people riding on horseback. It's like living in medieval times, kind of in some ways, as society's being rebuilt. Gasoline is all gone now. There's no cars. You can't drive around. You can't, do anything like that. Electricity is not a big focus anymore, and you got blacksmiths and you got stuff like that. I almost feel like, because I know Robert Kirkman likes Game of Thrones. He actually does. He watches it, and I think he's read all of the Song of Ice and Fire. I'm sure he probably has. He's a writer, right? He must love it because it's so similar to what he does. But what I was going to say is that it kind of feels like that, like a lot more of like a character drama, and like things have just changed totally. And I completely understand where you're going with that. And it has kind of been a lot more sort of peaceful since the time skip. It hasn't been as survival horror character, that type of deal. But I feel like we're getting back to that pretty soon. It's going to kind of mess with us again soon. We're going to see Rick go and try to save Carl, and we'll see what happens with that. And I'm sure some shit is going to go down for sure, because it's The Walking Dead. Eventually, it has to. Even though the story is advancing, the story is all it's changing. And I think Gimple was the one who said that every half season the show reinvents itself. Well, the comic book series is also the same way that it's always reinventing itself, and it needs to in order to stay compelling. Maybe for you've kind of lost that a little bit, that it'd be compelling right now. But I think it'll come back, and it needs to have variety. But it will have, climax issues like All Out War, and then it will have other parts, story arcs that are not quite as exciting, like, What Comes After and things like that. After, Made to Suffer and that Here We Remain, where it's not so big and crazy. It has to go up and down like that. So right now we're at a kind of a peaceful down period. I'm sure it'll come back up again. It always does. But you need to do that. You need to have the ups and downs in the story. Build up to the climax, come back down, and continue. It's long running. So that's what you're going to see kind of, if anything's going to be repetitive, I'm sure that will be what it is. So it's building to something, I'm sure of it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about all these questions, what your thoughts are on the comic book series lately. Have you been enjoying it as much, or do you like more of the survival horror, war type stuff? Which, I'll be honest, I kind of like that more too. But I love the care dev that Kirkman's been doing with Carl. My favorite character in the comic book series is Carl right now. So for sure. Let me know what you guys think about the Michonne game, whether or not you're going to buy it. Let me know what you think about these other answers. And that's all I got for this one, guys. I hope you liked it. Please thumb it up below if you did. Send me more questions. do it. Send them to me. No questions or stupid questions. Send me what you got. And if it makes sense, I'll put it into a Q&A. Not necessarily if it's good or bad. Sometimes I've answered it before, so I won't include something again. And that's not to insult. Again, I'm just doing the best I can to try to pick new stuff and try to keep it different as much as I can. Reinvent myself, so to speak. Learn from The Walking Dead in that way, right? That's important. So let me know what you guys think about all of that. And like I said, if you like the video, like it. If you want to support the channel, please share, favorite. And if you're new and you want to subscribe at the bottom left, feel free to subscribe at the bottom left. That's it for today's, guys. We'll see you again real soon. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace.